committee. Pat's president. She appointed me to run this committee. I'm a professional recruiter. I think we were talking about the other day. I don't know how I got Brian Crumby with a Y in there. We'll have to fix that. That's actually not. He's our board chair. Ken Vaughn's not here tonight. Of course, you know Larry. Dale Fessenden couldn't make it tonight. James Byers, Dennis Tibbs, and Pat. What we're going to do is we kind of cut into anything that we were going to do, opening remarks, but and probably our questions, but we're still going to give you up to 5 minutes opening and 5 minutes closing.
Thank you.
And then everything else will be compressed to allow that to happen. And when we ask the questions, we'll give you up to 2 minutes to explore that answer. If you have some time remaining on the clock there that Pat's keeping, somebody else around the table has the luxury of following up on that. So
Okay.
To get information. So, okay, why don't we'll kick it off, and this is Dale Fessenden.
Dale, how are you? Good to see you again.
And why don't you go ahead and you have up to 5 minutes for your opening, and then we'll jump into questions.
Okay, I'll just introduce myself again. I'm Bruce Toth, and I'm for State House District number 15. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this interview. I also want to thank you for the forum last night. I thought it was exemplary, it was well attended, and one of the best that I've ever participated in. It was truly outstanding. It was informative for everybody who attended, especially the candidates, and allowed for a lot of thought-provoking questions and answers. And I drove home after the forum thinking through everything, and I think you touched just about every subject and topic and allowed a fair opportunity for all the candidates. So I just want to thank you for the forum.
Primarily those two guys.
Oh, well, great job, great job. I made an opening last night, so I'm going to repeat a little bit of that. I'm Bruce Toth. I'm going to try to go through my experience because I feel like my experience tells you who I am and tells you what I've done. I currently serve as chairman of the Woodlands Township. That's like the mayor equivalent in the Woodlands. I've served as a director, elected director, through 3 elections. My last election was unopposed, and when the House seat District 15 opened up, and it was an open seat at that time, I called Steve and talked to him about it and my intentions of running, and decided to file for that after the encouragement of a lot of business, local leaders, and individuals. And it was several meetings and occasions that they've encouraged me to run. I'm a pro-business conservative. I have my own business. I pay taxes, and I have employees. I'm married to Diana, and I have 4 daughters, 2 of which are in college, and 1 in high school, and 1 in middle school. I want to tell you that I'm a fiscal conservative, and I don't just say this. I did it. I am a fiscal conservative. I've lowered taxes every year. I have served the Woodlands and the Conroe Independent School District. This is what I am primarily concerned about. And if you talk about debt and debt in the Woodlands, well, we just paid down $14 million of debt. So I don't like debt. I don't believe in debt. Sometimes debt is necessary to build a fire station. And we sent out for a bond. We let the voters choose on whether to do that or not. But I think the historic landmark in my career of public service that I've never been paid for, it's all been volunteer service, is lowering the taxes from approximately 42 cents to 13 cents in the Woodlands Community Association and giving $10 million back to the voters. We had a choice to roll that capital that we saved into the new township, but we decided to return that to the voters, and that was realized in a very substantial tax deduction. I've served as president of the Woodlands Fire Department. When I started, we had an ISO rating of 4. That's an insurance services rating as to what your standing is for your fire department. We had 4 stations at that time. Now we have 8. Now we are an ISO 1. That has received substantial insurance savings to residents and to our commercial property owners. Part of the success of the Woodlands is the development of the commercial base in the Woodlands, encouraging commercial development and businesses. Greater than 50%, almost 53%, is sales tax and occupancy tax that reduced our ad valorem tax rate every year. This year, and over the last 2 years, we've reduced our tax rate 10%. So the effective tax rate that J.R. Moore announces and says, hey, your inflation value's up here, we have reduced our tax rate below the effective tax rate. So you can't say we're not doing our job in the Woodlands. I wish every other government would do that, but that's what we've done in the Woodlands. And I'll stand on that because that's what I look for. I look at lean, running the city like a business, and that's how we've done it, and that's my fiscal conservative philosophy. I've served on the Conroe Independent School District Board as a trustee. We had that school district, I will match up against any school district in the state of Texas. You go find me one that's run more efficiently, that has a better academic and financial rating. You know, you asked about the debt on it. All right, and I know that's a big concern. But when you have 54,000 students and they're coming in here in droves, you have to build schools. And what the school district did during my tenure, I'll tell you during my tenure, is we didn't just keep throwing money at that. We used our contingency money that we saved because we did a cookie cutter school and we used the same format for each school. So you look at the Woodlands and you'll see all those schools, they all look alike, they have the same design. Those were tax savings to the taxpayers. I started an audit committee, an internal audit committee when I first got elected, and my concern was waste in the school district. And I started that committee, and when Teresa Carpenter was hired as an internal auditor, she reported to me as chairman of the committee, not to Don Stockton, not to anyone else. And I told her when she finds a smoking gun, she calls me. She doesn't call Don Stockton or anyone else. She reports directly to me. Okay, that in itself reduced, I'm sorry, I'm passionate. I'm just passionate about a few things, so I'm sorry I went over.
You may have a chance to elaborate on that.
Okay.
You might want to have, can you turn up your jingle?
Yeah, I just turned it up.
Oh, okay. As an attorney, what do you know about Sharia law, and what can you do to prevent it from gaining a toehold in the state of Texas?
You know, I'm not that familiar to speak on Sharia law. I'm not. I mean, if you can inform me about what your knowledge and understanding is of it, I can certainly respond.
Okay, it's Islamic law.
I know that.
And it's totally 180-degree opposite from the U.S. Constitution.
Well, I'm a Christian man, and I've been a Christian my whole life.
The rights of men are much favored. Matter of fact, in inheritance, women basically get nothing. It goes to the men.
Maybe we ought to push that.
Yeah. Well, and property
pays the bills. Okay.
I remember that, guys.
You know, the tax, I think when you started property, you know, if you own property, you're only allowed to vote. I mean, that's how the basis of a lot of foundations were started. The reason behind that is if you own property and you were to vote on tax increases, you were voting on it to affect yourself. When you have non-property owners voting, of course, they're going to vote for more benefits for themselves on the backs of property owners.
Right.
And this is all changed. But listen, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I am Sharia law. You know, that's anti to what I believe. That's anti to what I believe. As far as what you know, the rights of women and how women are treated under Sharia law, in my opinion, it's wrong. And that's what you said, John. It's contrary to everything I believe too. So that's.
You were talking about the anti-tax position. So the question I have regarding that is, when we look at, as a matter of fact, you're talking about the Woodlands, about the job that was done there. Of course, a lot of that was benefited from the sales tax, so that you could offload the property tax burden. That's a good thing. So my question is, as a state legislator, from the state perspective, this was mentioned during the forum as well, that basically we don't own our property because it's still basically taxed by the state. We don't pay the taxes, they take it from us. So my question is, would you explore options of using something other than property tax with that piece of the revenue? And if you would, where would you go in terms of, if you say just sales tax, the question would be how much of a burden would that be? What would your options be that you'd explore?
Okay, property tax is been around for thousands of years, so that is a mainstream main of taxation, or an income tax. So your trade-off is property tax, income tax, or consumption tax. So, you know, if you want to look at the European model, they just do all of it. You know, they do a value-added tax, they do an income tax, and they do a property tax. I feel that the property tax.
Well, with income, you have individuals and business.
Correct. Correct.
Would you do something in that regard?
Well, I'm a consumption tax guy. If you consume and it affects everybody equally, all the proposals that come across are shifting taxes. So if you give exemptions to seniors, that shifts taxes to those that aren't seniors. If you give a tax break to residential property owners, and you shift it over to commercial property owners with homestead exemptions. So everything's a shifting tax. Everything that gives one break to one person benefits one class, but then affects adversely the others. If you have a user tax, you have a consumption tax, then it's taxing the people that are using the product or using the service.
So would you focus more towards the sales tax, or would you gear it, you know, like we have a gas tax and those severance taxes from oil and gas, where would you focus replacing the property tax with which of those?
It would have to be, it would have to be on a sales tax. It'd have to be on a
Do you
sales
have
tax.
any idea what that would do? Would it go from like 6.5 statewide to
No,
9 or 10?
It wouldn't make up for the property tax. It wouldn't make up. You can't come up with I pay an occupation tax, so I'm an attorney, and I get an occupation tax. If you cap appraisals, or, you know, you say that taking the properties, that we don't own our properties, that's right. Well, there needs to be protection for property owners. I mean, that is our last right, is property owners. And I'm more, property owners, their rights should be protected. And I'm very strong in that regard.
We might come back to it. Good.
Okay, one of the questions in the questionnaire had to do with special purpose districts. And I guess you indicated that you could see the need for some changes, but could you be a little bit more specific as to where you see inequities, where you see need for changes in the regulations, the laws, the guidelines for special purpose districts?
Okay. Well, the special purpose district we operate under in the Woodlands Township, well, then everybody should operate that way. Okay, we provide general services, we're transparent, we have open meetings, and they're published and noticed so that everybody knows where the meetings are and the location. You have municipal utility districts, road utility districts, emergency service districts that provide special purpose, one service. We provide general services. This is the Woodlands. Our legislative district is a special purpose district. We are required to operate under open meetings and open records laws. I think all of these districts should be. The emergency, I'll tell you what's happened to us. We're trying to work with the city of Houston to try to obtain the annexation of property down Rayford and Sawdust Road, working with Oak Ridge North. And the municipal utility districts cut a deal with the city of Houston for a special purpose annexation. The city of Houston does nothing, not a damn thing, and they get 1.5 cents. The special purpose district gets 0.5 cents. They sold us all out, and they get to retain the money to use it for whatever limited purpose they have. The same thing with the emergency service districts. They've taken sales tax away from government entities, and they use that sales tax just for that specific purpose. Some of it, that's the only way they can raise revenue, is to do it, but they're not transparent, they're not open. A lot of times you don't know where their meetings are or the location of their meetings, and it's very frustrating. It's frustrating for me to be lumped into that same group. I think there needs to be I think they need to be open, transparent. They need to have their records and financial records posted to where they are public. and that their meetings notices are accessible. I mean, they just post them on their door and they have their meetings. I would impose the operating procedures that we operate under at Woodlands.
Okay.
You know, the 27th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution says that Congress cannot directly give itself a pay raise. But when it comes to elections and votes, we have a system that ignores that concept. People vote for whoever's going to give them the most stuff. And the U.S. has a lot to do with who votes, but the Constitution actually says the states decide who gets to vote and how they're going to vote and when they're going to vote and things like that on a lot of them. So do you have any thoughts on how we will control that? We're at the point right now where half the people are living off the government. So that half is that close to being able to determine who's in office that will give them more stuff. So how are we going to get to a point where we don't let legal and illegal people just come in and basically vote with no skin in the game and take for themselves just more benefits? Largely a U.S. question, but it's really not their responsibility. It's like Obama's executive orders. They've done it, nobody's challenged them, and that's where we are now.
If he can answer that question, I'm going to ask for him to run for president.
Let's start with replacing Brady.
So what can you do?
I tell you what, you know what?
Well, we give free in-state tuition to non-residents.
Yeah, and
Well,
it's a long road.
I think it should stop. I read an article about the state of Missouri, and they have English as their only language. They don't provide any benefits. I mean, I'll tell you, the laws that we're operating under now are very restrictive. If you can have a busload of illegal immigrants dropped off in front of one of our schools, and we take them just like that. Can't ask them where they're from, can't ask them, but Missouri does. Missouri does that. That applies to health care and applies to school districts. If I was in Magnolia School District and I wanted to go to Conroe Independent School District, I couldn't do it. Even if I paid taxes and said, hey, you know what, I'll pay the tax in Magnolia, then I'll pay the tax in Conroe. Just let me, I just want to put my kids in this school district. Well, that's restricted at the state level. I wouldn't restrict it. I wouldn't restrict it. I'd have choice as to what school district you could go to. And but these are federal laws. I mean, we need to, the federal system, that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. They're in charge of our borders. They won't let us do what we need to do down here in Texas. I mean, I certainly will take every step that I can to strengthen our borders, to enforce the laws here, including English only, and things that are just commonsensical for us. To me, it's depressing to even think about what's going on in Washington. It is depressing and it's wrong. Texas is almost like the last frontier of freedom and rights and liberty and what the whole Constitution was founded on.
Yeah, there's not much common sense up there right now.
No, not to me. It is
Just arrogance.
So a big part of it would be trying to find a way to phase in English only. Down here, half the people don't speak English, so you can't just stop overnight, but we do need to somehow phase it into the official operation of the state.
We do. And when you have a tremendously large growing demographic that is Spanish speaking, it becomes more and more challenging. I mean, what's frustrating to me is we have to do a ballot Vietnamese. That's what we have to do and that's required by federal law. That's what we have to do. It just makes no sense.
So I'm looking at this questionnaire, and what I'm hearing is I'm a very strong low tax conservative, but I've known you for 10 or 15 years, and that is not what I have seen and observed from what I know you did in the school district. And your statement earlier, you made two statements. You said that sales taxes of special districts, they take them from other government entities. And I'm thinking, why did he say other government entities? The government's still getting it. Who cares? You know, what about that taxpayer money going to the taxpayer, not being taken from them? And you also made a statement that I have reduced the tax rate consistently from this number to this number, making it sound like you're lowering the taxes. Like, you know, the frustration for us tax-conscious conservatives is like, well, yeah, you better lower the tax rate because my tax appraisal value is going up. And if you don't do something to make it less painful, I can't think of there's been a couple of years ago where the taxes went down because of the drop in value. But other than that, my taxes have gone up every year, and creating these districts has just added to the tax. And we're seeing taxes all over our water bills, our utility bills, our internet bills, everywhere. And so, I'm just saying, this is either you've been hiding under a rock, or we haven't communicated. But I mean, I've never known you to come out and help when the special district came over. There was only a few people that helped with this district over here that was, doing institution sales tax. So I guess, convince me that you're really a low tax conservative that this paperwork says.
Okay, that came up again last night. So I'm talking about the township, not the municipal utility district, which raises its taxes. Not talking about any other taxing entity, talking about the Woodlands Township.
Not the school district either.
Well, the school district, when I was on the school district, it was lowered. It was lowered at the lowest rate it's ever been lowered when I was on the school district board. It was substantially lowered.
So are you saying that the tax?
Yes, I am saying
that the tax amount taken was less?
Yeah, look it up. It was less, Brian. And in fact, this year.
Well, not the tax effect, no, the taxpayer to the
Tax
individuals.
Yes,
Dollars?
yes, it was.
I'll look it up.
All right, you will look at it.
Well,
The thing that frustrates me is when someone says, hey, my tax has gone up, so it's your problem. Well, I'm in charge of the township, and that's the tax rate that is below the effective tax rate. When J.R. Moore says, hey, the inflation is up 7%, your property's appreciated by that value, I've lowered it below 7%. It's been, in fact, 10% over the last 4 years. Every year that I've served in the township, we have lowered our taxes. Then you find another, I'm standing on that right now. You prove me wrong. But you find someone else has done that. Nobody else has done that. No, there's nobody that has. No one in any other government entity. On the Woodlands Community Association board, we lowered it from 42 cents to 13 cents. And the reason we did that is we gave back $10 million to the residents in the Woodlands. You can look it up. So no one has done that. That's historic. Who's paid $14 million of bond debt off? Nobody. There's no one around here that can do it. Now, a lot of people are going to talk, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to lower taxes, I'm a real strong constitutional conservative. Well, I've done it. Okay, so you can, I can prove it. I have done it. You look up my record. Everything I've done has been a fiscal, strong conservative that has lowered taxes, and that includes the school district and the Woodlands Township and the Woodlands Community Association.
When did you serve CIS?
2003 to 2009. And we had an option to get 3 pennies, which were additional taxes that every other school district took because they are greedy, they wanted the money, and they implemented it, and we did not do it, and I refused to do it. I said, we're not taking the money, we are not going to take the 3 cents.
That was state money.
State money, right. State money was free money, we didn't take it. So the incentive would have said, hey, let's take it, let's take the money, it's free, we increase it, we don't have to go back to the voters to do it. I refused to do it. I voted against it.
The franchise tax, we've heard good and bad. I mean, there's pro and con on it. Give me your overview of the franchise tax and what.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm not for it. I pay it. Okay. If you're a small businessman,
What, do you have a partnership? Because they're excluded, right?
I'm a limited liability company.
LLC,
Yes. And I'm involved in a partnership, real estate partnership investor. I'm a real estate broker. I'm a business law attorney, and I represent small businesses. I defend them from actions from regulatory agencies and from government. So that's what I do. I don't like franchise tax. I don't like being taxed as an attorney. Who around here gets an occupation tax? Well, I do. I have to pay a state licensing fee tax. I have to pay a regulation tax. I have to pay a broker's fee. I have to pay a state real estate fee. I pay fees that just go on and on and on. And I don't like any of them. And And the franchise tax, I think it's wrong, I don't like it. It's another revenue source that is an alternative to some other taxing option. You know, you've got to have money for essential government services. And they just dodged this and said, you know, this will be the least impact, we'll get the least pushback from businesses, and we'll throw a franchise tax on them. They're trying to tax realtors. They're trying to tax sales of homes. I will fight. There was no way that should happen, but this is what is and what makes me sick is this year I'm gonna have to pay an Obama tax of 3.5% on a real estate land sale. I mean, it's sickening to do that, but that's implemented 2013. So when we did a real estate sale, we're gonna get hit with that tax. It's a surplus tax for Obamacare. But I'm not favoring.
We're pretty close to halfway point or beyond.
Just about one more minute, and
Okay.
30 minutes in.
All right.
No, that's not right.
Well, what do you,
That's not.
what's that?
We started at 6:15, it's 6:40 now, or 6:35 now.
Okay.
We're
20
20
minutes.
Started about 6:10, but you
No,
said
well.
6:15. Okay, on number 7,
Questions and answers start at 6:50.
the question was, are you an active member of a conservative organization? If so, which one, how long, and what capacity? And you said, I'm a sustaining member of the Montgomery County Republican Party. There's 3 precinct chairs here. Let me ask you the question again. Are there any conservative organizations?
No.
Member of?
Well, I've been to 2 of the meetings here. I get all the updates and the flyers. I'd be honored to be a member. You are the conservative membership group in the county, no doubt about it.
You've got membership form now.
All right, I'll kind of joke in aside here. Do you believe in immigration reform?
Yes, I do.
Okay, explain your position.
First of all, you gotta look at the problem. 20 million illegal immigrants. You can't deport 20 million people. There's no way, it's not possible, and it's impractical for the cost value. We need to secure and enforce our borders. That's a federal issue that I guess we're all screaming about it, but no one's doing anything about it. So it's got to be done. There has to be some type of solution for the 20 million people in this country. You know,
The Republican platform for the state is work permits. Then, of course, there's amnesty. I mean, which of those would you do, or something else?
I would not do amnesty. I would not do amnesty. I can tell you what has been tried and attempted and has not worked. In California, they tried to give driver's license so they could identify all the illegals that are in California, and that just failed. But the whole system and plan was to identify who was there and to then have the accounting of what size their problem was. The issue is that we have 20 million people who are taking health benefits and school benefits and not paying into the system. And you've got to find a way for them to pay into the system. I don't know what the solution is. I don't. It's very complicated. You have people that are here, they came here illegally, had children that were born here, that are technically United States citizens who have had children that are here. Separating families is not the practical solution, but letting them jump ahead of the line is certainly not anything that's acceptable either.
So what I'm hearing you say is that if they pay for their school and their health care, then that's the most
If they're not a
practical
burden,
solution.
I guess.
That is, I would look at all solutions, Brian. Brian, you've got to. This is a debate. I've tried to discuss this with people who are. It's just very.
Well, but, so, you're asking us to, you're saying you're the guy
Right.
saying, look at the solutions. No, we've been looking at solutions for 30 years. We need answers. We need people with direction. And we need to know, before we want to support this or that person, we want to know where they're going with these major issues. So,
Okay, well, immigration reform is a federal issue, and the federal, that's why we elect congressmen and senators and presidents to figure it out, which they haven't figured it out.
So I would
it's
say
more-
that immigration in Texas is a state issue. The federal is going to do what they do. What is Texas, what are you as a state rep going to do? That's the issue.
You said no driver's license, I understand, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right. I mean, it would not politically sell. If you said, I'm gonna go ahead and do driver's license to everyone who's illegal here, you think, how fast do you think that would play out? There's no way that would be a practical solution. If you said, okay, we're going to give amnesty to everyone who is illegal on a 5-year plan, I don't think that would sell either. I mean, the plans that have been proposed have been rejected, all of them.
So we're just up a creek without a paddle.
No, we're not. We're not up a creek without a paddle. You've got 20 million people who are living here that are going to have to be assimilated in some form or fashion. One way, you're going to have to account for who's here. You're going to have to make it accountable. You're going to have them paying into the system. Otherwise, we're going to have all of our medical health issues and our school issues are overwhelmed. The state of Texas and all the border states are getting hammered right now.
I understand the problem.
Okay.
What's your solution?
Well, the solution is accountability. You got to come up with a plan that is acceptable to the country, to the federal government, because that's who's in charge with our borders, to make those that are here accountable and have a system that is acceptable. It could be work visas. First, that's an identification area, and a work visa, and you're getting Social Security, and you're getting Medicare that's paid. You've got to have that incorporated. You've got to have a system that is longer than someone who's done it illegally. I mean, we in the township have a Canadian employee who's been trying to get the citizenship for 9 years. And now we're talking about having 20 million people jump ahead of her. I mean, that's just wrong. Now you've got a system that's got to be longer than 9 years. So, okay, well, we will simulate you in. If you report now, you get a work visa, and it's going to take you 9 years. I mean, that's the only way you can do it if you don't jumpstart ahead of someone who's already in the system, who's trying to get their permanent resident.
Have a
I mean,
vote or no vote?
no vote.
Okay. We're
No vote.
We're at 3 minutes over, so we kind of cut in. I'll take away from your question, unless you.
I have a short one.
Does anyone have it? What do you think? Tell me what you think about
Well,
illegal
you were talking about,
immigration.
I'd
like to
okay.
hear
You were
what
talking
you-
about
I'd
the
like to hear your
financial,
choice.
burden.
Right.
Of course, Texas, we don't have an income tax.
Right.
So they're paying into it when they buy anything, sales tax. Now, except for this place over in my side, or the east side of the county, where they're putting up shacks on this guy's property who lives in Dallas, and he's, I don't know, you need to go by there sometime. Except for that, they're paying property tax when they stay in the apartments. Like I know there's a group staying on the, behind McDonald's on the northbound feeder here. So they actually are paying the taxes, but the problem, of course, is they're more a consumer of federal and state benefits than they are a producer of the tax base. So you might call them undesirable in that perspective, but I don't think anything the state could do or the federal do will increase their contributions to the tax base, is what I'm saying. You're welcome to disagree. There's nothing more we can get from them, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
The majority of them.
okay, you've got to work, let's say that you look at the 20 million people and whether they're contributing
They're
to
all mostly low skilled.
low skill,
Most are, not all.
low skilled, going to school,
Yeah,
receiving medical benefits,
yeah.
and there's no accountability for what's being paid in, or what's being paid out for that matter, because they're lumped in a big group. So the only way to find out the answer to that is account for everybody who's here. And you've got to have a system to account for them. You can do it through IDs, not a voter ID, but through a Texas ID card. You can try a driver's license. I don't think that'll sell for anybody anyways.
No.
You have to have a identification system that is not what is in use today. And you then have an accountability system within our schools. So I think what we're doing in our schools is crazy. I mean, we're teaching Algebra 1 in Spanish. And there's no assimilation into our schools with the kids, with the children that are brought here illegally. And the problem, and it impacts the school district more than anything. Delaware doesn't have this problem, or Connecticut or Rhode Island, they don't even know, they don't even get it, what we're dealing with. When you drop, and it affects our dropout rates, it affects our graduation rates, it makes us look a lot lower than other states when you're ranking our district. It's
That's
because a student who comes here illegally and stays in school for a year, then moves out and disappears, it goes against the school district. And that's what impacts our ranking in the state with all the other states. We actually do a pretty darn good job on education, but we're impacted in a lot of areas. The cost and the burden on the school district is very extreme. There is a huge cost there. If you had a system that would account for those kids that are here, but right now there's a federal law that prohibits against it. You can't ask them, hey, where are you from? Are you here legally? Are you here illegally? You can't do that. That's the restrictions that we're faced under. And if you say, okay, Bruce Toth, you pass a law to make that effective, I'll buy a lawsuit from the federal government. I'd be happy to do it. Be happy to do it.
Okay.
But I'd like to hear, does someone have a suggestion on immigration that you think would be workable?
A number, but we'll
Yeah.
talk about that after the election.
Yeah. Well, I'd be.
We want to find out about
sure.
you tonight.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
focus
well,
on
I'm
that.
I would.
We can discuss that.
Okay,
at some point.
I've always been receptive to any idea, any solution, to try it out, to work it, and support it. That's the way I've been. My whole public service has been that way. Working with people, solving problem solving, fixing things that work better. And that's why the township, in my opinion, is a government, a city that's run like a business, and it has proven results. And that's why people are coming to move in, and our tax rate is low, and businesses want to relocate here, like Exxon.
We've been 30 minutes on question and answer.
So again,
30 minutes on questions and answer.
Gotta let me answer mine.
Yeah.
So we got.
Yeah, let's go as much as we can, I'd say.
Yeah,
Because we
well,
got started a little
just
bit
give me a
late.
heads up
We're
before.
still-
We just have to start that one on time.
Yeah.
You gave me the perfect entrance to what I've been sitting here for the last 15 minutes waiting to ask.
All right.
I really liked your answer to question number 16. You said eliminate the magnets. That's what we've just been talking about. To backtrack just a little bit, 82nd legislature, I had some hopes. Brandon Creighton, Robert Nichols, Rick Perry all made a big deal about 10th Amendment and all this sort of stuff. In the 83rd legislature, there was a deafening silence. That whole thing just, to me, the 10th Amendment says that the state, if the federal law, if the federal government is outside the bounds of the Constitution, the state can say, but we haven't had the guts to do so. And to me, that's what I would want my representative, now I live in HD 16, but that's what I want my representative to go to Austin and do. Just like you said, pass a law, invite the federal lawsuit, tell the feds, you send an enforcer in, I'm gonna put him in jail. This is Texas, this is not DC. That would be my vote. And yes, accountability. You can't prove citizenship, pay to go to school. You can't prove citizenship, pay to get the health care. That's what my solution would be. Your thoughts?
it's also called nullification.
Yes, it's a great idea, it's a great plan. You've got to come up with a enforcement process that is fair. I looked at that when I was on the school district, and I said, well, okay, who's going to be the enforcer? The principal of the schools, the Conroe Independent School District Police Department, the superintendent, or is it going to be the state of Texas, the rangers, the sheriff? You've got to have an enforceability process or plan in place. You can implement the policy. You can vote on the policy, just like you said. Strong 10th Amendment, state rights, enforcement and protection of its own borders, and for the preservation of its own laws. But then you have to have an enforcement procedure or process. Once that's thought out, you know, if you take the magnets away, if you take them away, then it's going to move everything out. That'll happen. That's what happened with the Medicaid funding and other social services that were eliminated. And you see what what happens when that happens, when you take those benefits, those magnets away, and it disperses out. The enforcement process is going to be the challenge. And coming up with an enforcement process that is fair and legal, that's the solution.
Can it be done, and is it worth it?
It would there's a cost to every one of those, but when you have your administrative office at one of our elementary schools policing the doors as to who can come in and who can't, and there's got to be a law, it's got to be a thoughtful, deliberate law that would be that would allow that. You got to look at the burden of what it would impose on the district. I mean, I would say that every school district would not want to do that. They don't want to be in that. They don't want to be the gatekeeper. So it would have to be another agency, or it would have to be implemented with some other agency, and there's going to be a huge cost attached to it.
A lot of things Texas schools don't want to do. When the legislature passes a law, they do it.
Yeah, and I know, and that's part of all of this topic of whether we should, whether the legislature should be legislating laws for the schools to enforce, or whether the schools should be enforcing their own laws. I bet if some of these big districts were left on their own, they would come up with they would come up with a better system. They would have come up with a better way of education.
Okay.
It's 10 minutes to 7.
Okay.
I got a lot of questions I'd like to ask, but I'm going to ask this one about the honesty in our government. For most of my life, I thought that our local government was an honest government. The county and the state were trustworthy, and that all the corruption wasn't worse than D.C. But here recently we found out that the county is up to here in scandal, and the things that the state does are not protecting our interests as much as we thought they were. I looked at some things with the PUC not long ago, and there are a number of socialist business models, not allowed, but mandated by the PSC, the PUC. They say that utility companies and communications companies will promote certain far-fee services, like the low-cost rural area phones, at a fee, but if they don't connect enough, that the tax base as a whole will be charged to make up the difference.
Right.
We know that C-Scope was a socialist program, and it took 7 or 8 years under the noses of the legislature and the governor to even detect it. The toll road authorities are doing the same thing. You know, they're selling us out to foreign companies. They're saying you can make this profit, but if you don't make the profit, the taxpayers will bail you out.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's going to have to look at and identify all these groups. They're going to have to find some way to track them down and some way to police them. And of course, the most important way to police them is to reduce them. You know, you got big government, you can't control it. You got to shrink it. And somebody's going to have to do that. Are you going to be able to do that? And how are you going to do that? And is that going to happen in your first term?
I will do my best. I will do. I have experience, and I have a track record, and I've been transparent in everything that I've done. All of the government operations that I have served in, starting with a homeowners association, the Woodlands Community Association, to the Woodlands Fire Department, the Woodlands Community Service Corporation, the Woodlands Township, Conroe Independent School District, has all been on the side of transparency and openness, and with the same preconceived notion you just stated. There's something going on here I don't know about. And that's what I did once CISD with the audit committee. I felt like there were not proper record keeping, there was fraud in the system, and there was abuse in certain areas. And when the internal audit committee was established, I proved myself wrong in a lot of areas, but I proved myself right in other areas. When I'm elected and you have my cell phone number, you can call me up and you can tell me what your concern is, and I will look into it. I will make sure that you have your answer to your question, and I'll respond to you.
Yeah, because it's going to take somebody actively looking for that sort of thing.
Well, it does. It does. When people come to me or email me or come to my meeting, I respond to every one of them. Everyone that's done it. People may not like me. I mean, you may have some preconceived notion about me, but I will always answer you. I will always respond to you. I will always address your question. That's the way I've been my whole life. And I'm not paid to do this. This is my community service that I'm giving back. There's no motive. There's no incentive. If I went into it wanting a motive or incentive, then I'd be doing it for the wrong reason, and I wouldn't enjoy it. So I'm not running for commissioner to get paid a salary, I'm not running for county judge to be paid a salary, and I'll never run for congressman, because I can't stand what's going on there. And they're all
Why
overpaid.
not run and
Yeah, we might want you to
we
run.
need somebody.
I,
We need fighters.
don't tempt me. I want to serve you in the Texas House, and I want to serve you with honor, and I want to make you proud. I want you to say you know me when I was running for this office, and that I've made you proud and I've served you well, and I've done what I've said I want you to say that to me. I want to prove it to you.
Okay, we got time for one more question. I will leave, Brian, maybe two. Go for it, Brian.
Go ahead, Larry.
I got one.
You know what? Go ahead.
Okay.
What are the three biggest problems you see with Seascape? As you know, one of our members is the one who uncovered that, the member's mother. And then our member took it all the way up to the state level, to the lieutenant governors and senatorial level. What are the three biggest problems that you see with Seascape?
Well,
Common Core.
tell me a little bit about the issues that you perceive and that you uncovered on it, so I can be enlightened.
Well, what do you know about it? I guess basically, I've got three things here, but I just, you're the candidate.
John's not gonna answer your question.
I'm not gonna answer.
Okay, well,
You're the candidate.
well, yeah, I'm opposed to it, and I mean, generally, the core principles, well, I'm against C-scope, and I haven't studied it in depth.
Okay, what do you know about it that maybe from a 20,000 foot overview?
Not much about it.
Okay. All right. At this time, to try to stay on track, and relative to our next interview, which is in 5 minutes, you have up to 5 minutes for your
Okay.
closing. And if you want us to ask any more questions during that time, that's fine.
Feel free to interrupt me and to ask me any other questions you have. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to participate in this interview and this process. I don't know everybody, but I've met most of you, and I just hope that that this interview has given you an opportunity to know me a little bit better. I want to say that I've always been responsive to everybody that I have worked with, and I've been willing to meet with on any issue in my service. My experience speaks for what I've done, and when I first started in public service, I was very suspicious of government. I still am suspicious of government, because government makes a lot of mistakes. They do a lot of things wrong. Sometimes there's not a clear right answer to everything in government, but if you work very hard and work at maintaining your own principles and applying those principles to government, it can work. It can work in an efficient manner. In my service, I kind of look at government as to how I live my life. I look at when I always look at what the issues are, I say, what problem are we solving? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? I look at what the cost is, and I do a cost benefit of everything that we deal with. My priority in government is to keep taxes low, to keep the rights of taxpayers and property owners high. And I compare it with myself each time that I'm making a decision for the taxpayers and the constituents that I represent. The Legislative District 15 is impacted with transportation issues and public safety. I serve on the urbanized area, which is Conroe and the Woodlands, and we're doing mobility and funding projects for the county. Right now, the biggest issue from everybody in Legislative District 15 is transportation. Transportation is a huge concern on the Rayford Road, the Sawdust Road corridor, trying to get mobility projects through. dealing with Houston, Galveston area council has been very complicated. It's been very difficult for the urbanized area that we're working with, and that's our funding source that we have to deal with. So the improvements we're doing is to do a road mobility study for South Montgomery County. We're doing one for the town center as well. You have to have that mobility study accomplished and identified for the projects that need to be addressed. So one of the priorities that I have, that I've made for myself, is transportation in the Rayford Sawdust Road corridor, which is Legislative District 15. That is the biggest issue we have to deal with. When you get to the legislature, immediately there's going to be pet projects that are identified by each one of the legislative representatives. The one that's going to be the top priority for Legislative District 15 is transportation. There's just no doubt about it. And it's going to be more compressed, there's going to be more traffic and more transportation issues and concern. Public safety, we have the largest contract with the Sheriff's Office, $13 million, and we have the best law enforcement program in the Woodlands. And I just work to impose those. Did I just run out? Those models?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so to implement that public safety model, to expand it throughout Legislative District 15. The other issue is water. The surface water conversion project has got a lot of concern. These are the big issues: water, transportation, public safety. Those are areas that I've worked with in municipal government on behalf of the township.
Did you vote for Prop 6?
I did vote for Prop 6. The water, that water is one of the big issues that has to be identified for the state of Texas. That provides a funding mechanism, but it needs more oversight other than the state reps and the state senators and the proposed advisory board. And that's one thing that I think needs to be addressed and looked at.
Do you agree with the pipeline coming through the Woodlands as needed from Lake Conroe?
Well, you've got to have the surface water. I mean, John, it's got to come from somewhere. You can't.
Why not commingle the fresh water with the saline?
Catahoula.
Well, I think you should look at that. I think that's one of the solutions is to, well, no, you can still do.
Yeah, you can put the pipeline and drill.
Well, the desalinization of the Catahoula and to pump water back into the storage. I mean, right now, there's more evaporation occurring off of the reservoir than there is that's being consumed. I mean, that is not the way to solve it. It is not the way to solve it. That is the only funding mechanism